Hello, everyone. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background in the transition between the Greeks and the Romans. The Golden Age of Greece ends when they are defeated in the Peloponnesian War. Here you can see 431 to 404 for the Common Era. After that, Philip of Macedonia establishes the League of Corinth. This becomes an alliance unifying the Greeks against the Persians. He's killed in 336 for the Common Era, and his son Alexander the Great takes over. And many of you have heard of Alexander the Great. He's a student of Aristotle. He's a well-known figure. Here is the control under Philip of, of Macedonia, Philip II. And here is it at Philip of Macedonia's death. Okay. And Alexander the Great conquered most of the known world. He goes as far as Greece, Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Persian Empire, and as far as Punjab, India, where he has to stop because he's greeted with warriors on elephants, and a whole line of them. He's a great military genius. He has a large army and new weapons. This is a large image that you might see later. He's right here. Here he is. He goes all over. You see Troy and all these. He's all over the place. Quite long. And here's Alexandria, which he's going to build. There's going to be a lot of Alexandrias, but this is going to be the main one that we're talking about. Here are some of his weapons. One of these used to move. It was a GIF, animated GIF, but it won't move on this. I don't know why. And this too was, and there was one right here, but I don't know where it's at now. Moves up to the wall, and they can climb over it and fight. This is called the Hellenistic era. He's going to spread these Hellenistic ideas. Remember, those are Greek ideas. The Greeks called them the Hellenes. It's cosmopolitan, it's urbanism, it's a blending of Greek and African and Asian cultures. And Alexandria becomes a cultural center. So one of the styles that comes from the Greeks, but is changed a little bit at this time, is a sort of dynamic style where the subjects are in movement. And this is Laocoon, and there's a couple of different, I've heard a couple of different versions of this. The one version I remember is that Laocoon was a priest for Poseidon or something. But they thought he was going to tell the Trojans that the Greeks were inside the Trojan horse. So Poseidon sends a serpent to kill him and his sons. And here's the serpent wrapped around them, killing them. He's in great pain. It's very dynamic. You have a diagonal here, which means it's in movement. You have the swirling snake, and you can see everybody's in pain. And it's an interesting sculpture because to the Greeks, it says, this is what we had to do to win. And to the Trojans, says this is what we had to move on. Because you'll see later that one of the Trojans are going to establish the Roman Empire. Here is a classical Greek sculpture compared to the Hellenistic sculpture. Hellenistic sculptures, here's Victor of Samothrace, I don't know how to pronounce that. See the woman's body under the clothing. You could never see that before. So it's changed very much since the Golden Age of Greece. And even you can see older people, and you could never see that before. So here's the Roman world. And it took three separate groups of people to help the rise of Roman culture. The first are the Etruscans. They mentioned a little bit about these in your book, but there's a lot more to be said. They're very cool. They're very interesting, and they're some of my favorite to study. The Greeks and the Phoenicians. Here's the Etruscan League. Just the Etruscans, and that's the thing. You can watch it if you want to, but I'm not going to do it here to waste your time. They called the land Etruria. Today we call it Tuscany. We don't know where they came from, but we see them there between 900 and 500 before the Common Era. They're in many different city-states. They're not united, but they speak the same language, and the Greeks did the same thing. A written language is not deciphered. They ruled the Latins until early 500. The Latins are people who were already there. The Latins had urban planning, chariot racing, the toga, bronze and gold crafting, and the art. So the Etruscans are going to, assimilate that into their culture and bring their own. The writing, most inscriptions are found on tombs, monuments, and mirrors. They had a lot of mirrors. Ignore this not on notes thing. That's for a different class. You see, they take these and they make a scratching of them, a rubbing of them, so they can have a record of them. Etruscan writing tablet. That's not paper. Paper's not invented yet. The Etruscans had a wealthy trade center, independent fortified city-states, formed small confederacies, strong military, great navy. By 6th century before the Common Era, Etruscan military had conquered much of the Italian peninsula, including Rome and the island of Corsica. They dominated all the surrounding peoples. Here's a bronze image of a warrior. You can see how they looked, how they dressed. Here's one of their chariots. The Etruscan religion is polytheistic. They believed that the destiny of man was determined by the whims of the gods. They believed in prophecy and reading the signs of nature by augurs. This belief in prophecy is going to be incorporated into the Christian religion. They believed in predestination. And a lot of their gods had different names that were taken from the Greek gods, but they gave them different names, like Apollo with Apollo, things like that. They created art for religious or utilitarian purposes. Most famous pieces created out of terracotta, many murals and frescoes on their tomb walls. They also created art just for fun. They have lively depictions of life, dancing, games, music, and feasting. Pottery, at first copies of Greek works. Later, they created their own bronze pottery. Bronze craft mirrors, bowls, and candelabras, gold and silver jewelry. And this mole, I don't know if it's called Etruscan or what, but it has a name. I remember looking it up because I thought it was cute. And it had a name of these, and now I can't remember what it was. We shall see it again too because I like to stick it in there. Etruscan bronzes, another mirror. Here's an Etruscan bronze that I tend to like. It's a cistern, in which the cylindrical container, it holds toiletries created by hammering bronze sheet while it's flat, and then you curve it. It's engraved, and they added filler, like the white filler there, and they shaped it and curved it. And then they had molded these feet and the handles to begin with before separately, and then they added them. A noblewoman has given it to her daughter. The images, I think the images are from the Odyssey. And it's a narrative. It tells a story, and they have some registers on there to continue the story. Natural poses, influenced by the classical Greek ideals, and registers from early Greek vessels. Here's, I think this is a chimera. And chimera, I don't know. My students told me how to pronounce it, I forgot. See, there's a snake tail eating the goat that's on the side. It's like a lion. And I know this is one of the games my students played. This is one of their bronzes. And this is the Capitoline wolf, but it's a she wolf. And later, the Renaissance people added the two children because this is supposed to be Romulus and Remus. And there's one of the stories of how Rome was born was through these two children, these twins that were left for the care of the she-wolf. But this part right here was definitely made by the Etruscans. We have some vessels. This is certainly terracotta. I don't know if this is, but this is actually Oedipus, which is from a Greek story, talking to a sage in Apollo's temple. Then we have a baby that was made out of terracotta. That's the whole thing again. Here we have some of their jewelry. Some of it's very nice. And this is one of my favorite things. It's a fibula. You see it's a lion motif right here, which you've seen in Mesopotamia and Egypt. This one reminds me of their dragon. And one of the coolest things they do are these tombs. And these called tumuli. And they're like little villages of a necropolis or city of the dead. These wealthy Etruscan families are very large. The tumulus round on top, underground rooms beneath the tumulus, 130 feet in diameter. This one is the Tomb of Shields and Chairs, 14 shields carved on the wall right here. The furniture is carved out of tufu, which is dark limestone. There were 6 beds, like this, 2 high-back chairs, footstools, and status of the deceased on the furniture. Look at that. This is probably the most well-known. It's the interior of the Tomb of the Reliefs. Several generations of families painted and carved stucco and plaster reliefs, everything they needed in the afterlife: dishes, pillows, helmets, sheaths, etc. And the most interesting thing, I love this cat right here, but this is a very interesting scene right here. I'm going to give you a close-up. This is Cerberus, the 3-headed dog, unless you watch Harry Potter and then his name is Fluffy, but 3-headed dog is there, which is from mythology, of course. Here's the interior tomb of the leopards. It paints them. These two are great right here. These are 2 wrestlers. And I like them because you see the side of the face, but the front of the eye that we've been seeing throughout. And this is cool. This guy is diving. But these guys out here are killing the birds and fishing. And just like on the Egyptian tomb, they're fishing and killing birds, but diving hadn't been seen before. But we can definitely see it if the schematic of a tomb where you open it up, another guy is diving while they're on their beds or couches eating, being served by a guy who's naked. This is another thing they're well known for, and these are their sarcophagi. And they're always in couples, and they're painted terracotta, and they're in sections. So here's one section, two sections, three sections, four section. So they did them in, because terracotta has to be baked, of course. Deceased ashes were held inside the painted terracotta masterpiece on a banquet couch, made in four sections. Artists only concerned with the upper torso. They're gesticulating, which is motion or signaling arms. Husband and wife together, animated, perfume flask or pomegranate would be in hand, or a mirror. They love mirrors. And this is influenced by early Greek, which may have been influenced by early Egyptian, because we've seen this type of face before in the very early Greek sculpture. And then they kind of moved, and this doesn't look like terracotta. It almost looks like a stone that's been carved before a sarcophagus where the man and woman are in bed together facing each other. It's very cool. And this one does look like terracotta. That's kind of nice. The second people that contributed to the growing of the Roman Empire were the Greeks. They contribute the pantheon of gods. So the head god, the Greeks called Zeus, and the Romans called Jupiter, and you can see the other ones right here. They contribute their linguistic and literary principles. So you're going to get some stories. And the aesthetics of the classical style. They liked the forms, the shapes. They would copy a lot of Greek sculpture, and you can't think of them as just copying them. You have to think of them as honoring them. The Romans loved antiquity. The Romans loved the beauty of what had been, and they loved to recreate it. The third are the Phoenicians, and this is the name of the people from the Arabian Peninsula who had settled in parts of northwestern Africa. The tip of Africa is Carthage, and they brought their alphabet, their trade, and their maritime skills. It's interesting because when everybody's happy, all is good. When they're fighting, the Carthage will block all of this so they can't get food into Italy. It's very interesting. Okay, so we're going to stop and start a new tape.